with everything that's going on in the world right now, I thought I'd talk about a story where maybe I was a little prejudiced. And this story goes to my first ever fight. I grew up in the Bronx in a predominantly Italian section. All my friends were Italian. And, you know, that's just kind of how we grew up. One day we used to hang out on Hone Avenue, which was a place in the Bronx. It's actually where we went to school, our grammar school, St. Clair's. And this kid JJ and his family moved from Castle Hill. And Castle Hill was known as kind of my mother was, grew up in Castle Hill, but by this time it had become not the best neighborhood. Most people that lived there were predominantly, Hispanic or African American, and there was a lot of crime over there. That's just the way it was. So when this family moved here to my friend's Kevin's block, they were, Hispanic and from Castle Hill, more importantly. So we instantly were afraid. We know they moved here from Castle Hill. We assume just because they're from Castle Hill that they could knife us at any second. But that's just as kids. I'm 12 years old at the time. So anyway, we're playing wiffle ball in the street one day, and JJ asked if he can play, and we're like, yeah, sure. I don't know if it was out of fear or just us trying to be nice as kids. We let him play. Very early into the game, he gets into an argument with my friend Kevin, and I come over to try to be the peacemaker, the mediator, and I say, hey, man, I'm just playing wiffle ball here in the street. When a car passes by, we get out of the way. In the meantime, we're hitting this ball around. And JJ says, what? Hits me right in my head. Boom. Now, here's the thing about JJ, okay? I was 5 feet and fat. JJ was 4'8" and 73 pounds, max. So when he hit me, I didn't feel it. That's the first thing, because he was so small. Also, I'd never been punched before in the face, let alone just punched in general. But I look around, and I'm looking at all my friends, and because he's from Castle Hill, my friends are all afraid. They don't do anything. And me, I start hysterical crying, not out of pain, but out of the fact that none of my buddies did anything. I hobble my little chubby ass home 2 blocks away, try to go in my house, try to walk past my mother in the kitchen, and she goes, what happened? She sees the mark on my forehead. And I said, nothing, I fell. And my mom screams, Joe, which is my father's name. My dad comes out of the bedroom, and he looks at me, and he just says one thing. He says, did you hit him back? And I was such an honest kid that I said, no. He says, get in the car. We go downstairs, we hop in the car, and I'm freaking out. He's like, you're going to take me to this kid's house. And I'm crying, Dad, please don't. No, I don't. Come on. He says, no, this is what happens when you don't fight back. And he didn't know the race of JJ. He didn't know where they were from. He didn't know the backstory. He was just upset that the way he was raised, and the kind of son he wanted to raise is, when people hit you, you hit back. And that's kind of what's going on right now in the world. People feel like they got hit and they're hitting back. So we go to the house, and he's like, point out the house, Rob, point out the house. Here's the thing about my father, and I'll get into this at a later date. My father was shot in the face in 1985. He pissed off the wrong guy. And he's got half a tongue, no teeth. And he was 29 years old. Picture the most vain man you ever met in the world. Now take away his looks, in a way. Still got a great head of hair, no offense, Mark. So all my friends growing up, they can never fucking understand him. I got cousins, nobody can understand what. I'll call my dad on one of these future episodes, and everybody will get a kick because nobody will understand him. Anyway, but it's the only way I've ever known him, so I understand him. So anyway, he's like, point out the house. So I pointed out, and he says, get out of the car. And I said, Dad, please don't. No, Dad, please, I don't. Get out of the fucking car. And I didn't. Goes to the door, knocks on the door, and JJ comes to the door. Now, JJ, like I said, is 4 foot nothing, 70-something pounds. And my dad turns to me, and I'm in the street, and he looks at me, and he goes, are you fucking kidding me? He couldn't believe it because he was thinking to himself, if I won't fight this kid, who the fuck would I fight? And it was a very emasculating moment as a young kid and something that stuck out to me. Anyway, my dad says, "Is your father home?" to the kid, JJ. JJ can't understand him. He goes, "What?" He goes, "Is your father home?" JJ says, "I don't have a father." Right? So my dad sees some guy laying on the couch. And now looking back, the guy's probably my age now in his late 20s. And my dad's like, "Who's that?" And he goes, "That's my mother's boyfriend." So he says, "Tell him to come outside. I'm going to kick his fucking ass." Right? Screaming. And now you got to also understand my dad, you can't understand him. So anything that's happening, these people have no idea what this is about, what's going on, why, what, when. This guy comes to the door and he's fucking high out of his mind. We just welcome everybody. He's like, "What's up, bro?" You know? My dad's like, your stepson, whatever he is, he hit my kid, you know? And I got a problem with that. And the guy says, "Listen, man, I don't want no problems." My dad's screaming at him. They don't understand what he's saying. This guy just woke up. And he says, if he ever touches my kid again, I'm going to come here and I'm going to beat the shit out of you. I don't know if the guy understood what he said to him, but he said that. Hops in the car, my dad's dead quiet. You know? He was so disappointed in me. And I remember that moment of feeling disappointed, like, that I had let him down. And I have two older brothers, and they came over and visited that same night because my dad called them up or my mother called them up or somebody, and they were just, you know, I was less than a man in that moment, you know? And it really bothered me. But this is what I'm saying. I feel like the story kind of goes with today as a young kid. I had a preconceived notion that just because where this kid was from, that he was dangerous. And, you know,
it sounds like, unfortunately, he acted on it.
He acted on it, but also that's, you know, you're a product of your environment. Maybe he was, you know, also he didn't know his father and what the case may be. So everybody has their reasons. Yeah. But also in the same sense, I wouldn't parent the same way as my father did, but I do think you should fight back for what you believe in. Somebody hits you hit them back. You don't, you know, loot their store. But it also made me feel like my father cared enough to hop in the car, drive to his house, and he was willing to fight for me over something as stupid as a fucking wiffle ball game. Yeah. You know? So pick your battles is the message. And thanks, Dad. And I'm sorry that sorry to my brother. I think they beat me up that night, actually, my two older brothers. They were fucking embarrassed, man.
No.
They were like, "You didn't fucking end him back?" My dad didn't talk to me for 2 days. No bullshit. He was very upset. And my mother started it by spotting it out, you know. But she also, you know, that's just the way they were raised, man. Your dad's from the Bronx. Castle Hill. I guarantee he knew my mother, but my mom's probably 8 years older than him, I think.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe not, but might know my aunt, Phyllis.
I know we have to do some digging into that.
But I'm sure if your dad didn't hit back in his neighborhood growing up, that he would have been looked at.
But I love the way you looked at it. You even said, "Look, that kid didn't even have a father.
Yeah.
He didn't know his dad." You know what I'm saying? So for him to hit you.
And also the guy who came to the door wasn't willing to fight for him.
Yeah.
You know, my dad hopped in a car and he drove there and he was willing to fight over nothing.
Exactly.
Didn't know what this guy was coming out with or who he was. Didn't know he was going to answer the door. You know, he just was upset somebody hit his kid. And that's love, I guess, you know. And whatever way you want to show it. But